In the great hall of Lawrence Castle, the atmosphere grew tense as the attending nobles wore expressions of surprise, even panic. Whispered rumors began to spread when news of the upcoming duel between Roman Dmitri and Anthony Barco was suddenly revealed. Viscount Barco's eyes were filled with tension and silent anger. He was not only facing a wound to his honor, but also witnessing his son, Anthony Barco, being forced into the arena before everyone's eyes. In the courtyard where all eyes were focused, Roman Dmitri and Anthony Barco faced each other. Surrounding them were prestigious seats reserved for nobles, soldiers, and powerful figures, creating a solemn yet pressure-filled scene. Anthony's trembling hand tightly gripped the sword hilt. Fear was evident in every small movement, revealing his unstable state of mind before the inevitable duel. Beneath the silver armor, Anthony tried to justify his past actions. His voice choked as he spoke of his feelings for Flora, claiming that his mistakes were made out of emotion, but his words only highlighted his weakness. Roman Dmitri silently observed his opponent. Showing neither anger nor sympathy, he quietly listened to the belated apology from the one who once despised him. As Anthony tried to salvage the situation with excuses and reminders of old friendship, Roman remained unmoved. His hand began to draw the sword from its sheath, clearly expressing an unwavering resolve. Realizing Roman's action, Anthony's eyes widened in panic. A surge of intense fear rose within him as he shouted his opponent's name in despair, hoping it might change the outcome. Anthony screamed, addressing Roman with a respectful title and begging for mercy. He was willing to abase himself to the point of swearing lifelong loyalty if forgiven, showing a complete collapse of his pride. Confused whispers echoed from the audience seats. Some felt pity, others contempt, while Viscount Barco clenched his fists in despair, grinding his teeth in anger. In his eyes, his son was no longer a source of pride, but an unbearable disgrace. Roman Dmitri quietly repeated Anthony Barco's empty promises as a form of mockery. Silent contempt was clear in his eyes as he listened to the plea for forgiveness from a traitor. Stepping closer, Roman questioned his opponent with a voice cold as steel. He pointed out the painful truth. Anthony was not even capable of repaying the enormous debt the Barco family owed to the Golden Bank. Not stopping there, Roman continued to expose the true nature of the Barco family. Their once proud political connections were now ashes, burned down by their own tyranny and cruelty. Roman's sword gleamed brightly in the cold air as he declared decisively, the Barco family was finished. Each step forward was a silent death sentence for his opponent. Roman stopped before Anthony, his eyes filled with hatred and contempt. He enunciated each word harshly. The man before him had defiled his honor and used deceit to bury his life in a swamp of shame. Each accusation was like a dagger piercing the heart of the fearful man. Roman left no room for hope. Now tell me, why should I forgive you? From the stands, Lord Barco was horrified as he realized events had spiraled beyond control. But it was too late. A cold whisper echoed, "You are right." Roman did not wait another second. The verdict rang out in the silent moment. "You have no reason to be forgiven." Then his sword pierced straight through Anthony's chest. In the moment close to death, Roman held his gaze firmly on the man who had trampled on his pride. There was no mercy in the eyes that had witnessed too much betrayal. Anthony Barco coughed up blood, his body collapsing. But for Roman, this was not the first time he had ended the life of a blood relative. In the past, when he was Baek Junghyuk, he had to strike down his own siblings to survive. From above, a man spoke with an air of knowledge, completely dominating the situation. Before him, the young white-haired man stood motionless on the blood-soaked battlefield, surprised by the unexpected question from the older brother he had always been wary of. "Do you know what your problem is?" With a proud smile and a mocking gaze, the older brother, Hoyol Baek, leaned back leisurely, his eyes piercing into his opponent's soul. He sarcastically said without hesitation, "You don't know how to compromise." His name was emphasized like a mark. The eldest son of the demon sect, the 12th among the brothers, Hoyol Baek. He continued, his voice both sharp and slow as if lecturing a fool. "The moment you see the person in front of you as an enemy, the only path you choose is destruction." Meanwhile, Junghyuk remained silent, his bloodshot eyes quietly observing. Hoyol's words were like cold daggers piercing straight into the listener's heart. "You have absolutely no mercy for your enemies." Junghyuk's face showed no emotion at this moment, but his eyes were deep and held a flame that had not yet died out. "That stubbornness will be your downfall." Deep inside, Junghyuk could not deny, Hoyol was indeed an extraordinary man. Not only did he possess strength, but he also had the ability to make all opponents fall, and what was more terrifying was that afterward, they willingly followed him as loyal servants. The image of Hoyol sitting calmly amid the eerie light appeared like an illusion. With strange generosity, he had absorbed all those who once opposed him. Junghyuk could not help but admire. That was the prowess of one born to dominate. Nevertheless, Junghyuk remained unshaken. He looked up at the night sky, responding with iron determination. "I understand what you say, brother." But he also clearly affirmed, "The path I choose is to destroy all who stand in my way." His eyes flared with fierce inner strength, energy surging like a storm of spiritual power surrounding his body. "That is how I lived in the demon sect." Jung-hyuk's voice was as firm as red-hot steel, "and I have no intention of changing that." In reality, not memory, Roman Dmitri stared directly into the desperate eyes of his enemy, the blood-red sword having pierced Anthony Barco's body. In his mind, there was only one cold reason. Only death can eliminate all variables. The sword swung in a cold slash. The deep red swept across the light, ending the life of a traitor. No second chances, no forgiveness. Roman, like Jung-hyuk once did, chose to live without mercy for any mistakes. The cold slash ended the life of Anthony Barco, the most promising heir of the Barco family, echoing like a final verdict in the arena. Roman Dmitri did not look back, walking through spilled blood as if this outcome had long been destined. Anthony's body fell, blood staining the cold stone floor red. His death, the man who once fiercely challenged and set political traps, came swiftly and brutally, beyond anyone's anticipation in the audience. In panic, Lord Barco rushed toward his son with eyes blazing in horror. He was no longer a powerful noble, but just a desperate father witnessing an irreversible scene. He shouted into the silent space, the word "no" echoing with deep anguish. On the barren battlefield, Anthony's body lay motionless, while Roman stood firm with his blood-stained sword, as if death was only a small part of a larger plan. Lord Barco knelt down, lifting his son's bloodied body, screaming incessantly. Extreme pain was evident on his face, but it was all too late. Anthony was dead, and the downfall of the Barco family was now only a matter of time. His eyes widened, pupils shrinking in extreme shock. A silent scream erupted in his mind, mixed with hatred, pain, and fear that gradually tore apart the reason of a man who once considered himself unshakable. Roman coldly turned around, his gaze sharp as a knife piercing the panicked lord's mind. "Is something wrong?" The gentle yet bitter words were like a second blade, twisting deep into a wound not yet dried. Still maintaining a proud calmness, Roman smirked. To him, it was inevitable that a criminal must pay with their life in a legitimate duel, a rule that Barco himself once used to manipulate others. Screaming in madness, Lord Barco turned to the soldiers who were still stunned. He ordered with a furious roar, demanding the execution of the monster who killed the sole heir. But it was the call of a defeated man, no longer carrying weight. Faced with that order, Barco's soldiers could not hide their fear. They hesitated, trembling, sweat pouring beneath their heavy armor. Facing Roman, the one who had easily slain Anthony, none dared to step forward. The atmosphere in the hall suddenly froze as Roman stepped forward, a murderous aura bursting forth. The image of dark energy forming demonic eyes floating behind him made the Barco knights shudder. Deep down, they all understood. They had no chance against this monster. In panic and pain, Lord Barco hissed accusations that Roman had deliberately orchestrated everything from the start. With tear-streaked face, he claimed that the initial visit without guards was a trick to catch Barco off guard. Roman did not deny it. He frankly declared that from the moment Anthony Barco dared to threaten him, their fates could not coexist. With resolute eyes, he emphasized that he and Barco could never live under the same sky. Taking a gentle step forward, Roman scanned the entire room. Every movement of his now seemed to impose a sentence on the fate of everyone present. Then Roman declared decisively that truth, the unerasable hatred between him and Anthony Barco, was the cause of today's outcome. Anthony's death was inevitable and unavoidable. Turning to the silent nobles standing opposite, Roman's voice echoed through the hall. He warned that anyone still clinging to hope or meaningless alliances with the Barco house would face severe consequences. Every word he spoke was not just a warning, but a declaration of war. With eyes blazing with dark energy, Roman affirmed that anyone siding with Barco from this moment on was an implacable enemy. In pain and fury, Lord Barco shouted, questioning Roman if he truly thought he could escape the consequences of today's brutal actions. His face twisted with anger and despair. Roman did not bother to look back. His red cloak billowed powerfully with each step, as if every movement shattered all threats. He coldly declared, no one could shake him, especially not here. Amidst the blood-stained floor, Roman continued to stride forward, leaving Lord Barco kneeling and clutching his son's body. Without stopping, Roman affirmed that he would leave no opportunity for Barco to recover. Every action they took from now on would be monitored and eradicated by him. Roman Dmitri silently left the hall as the door behind him closed heavily. His farewell was like a full stop to the confrontation, both decisive and cold, leaving behind a room filled with panic and despair. Kneeling beside his son's bloodied corpse, Viscount Barco was stunned in horror and regret. Those around remained silent, no one dared to speak. In that moment he finally realized his fatal mistake, provoking the wrong person. A few days later, in the quiet night, Barco quietly arranged his escape. Knowing he could not repay the enormous debt to the Golden Bank, he chose the cowardly path to flee, hoping to avoid both debt and Dimitri's sword. However, that escape quickly ended. Viscount Barco's body was found on a desolate hill, eyes wide open in terror. The tragic end was silent but full of retribution. The Barco family, once one of the most powerful forces in the northeast region, was now just an empty name in memory. They declined rapidly, without glory, without honor, leaving nothing but bloodstains on the cold ground. In the quiet night, moonlight shone through the glass window of the Dimitri mansion, casting a silent shadow down the corridor, marking the beginning of a new chapter after the shocking event. The Dimitri family's butler was stunned when he saw Roman enter from the dark corridor, his face somewhat pale but trying to maintain calm. Within him, a sense of unease arose. From a distance, Roman approached, clothes stained with blood but his expression unusually calm. A solemn voice rang out in the night. "Where are you going at this hour, Lord Roman?" Roman smiled mysteriously, replying softly as if he had just strolled through a peaceful garden. He said, "The moonlight tonight is truly brilliant. I just wanted to take a little walk." In response to those seemingly harmless words were the astonished and shocked eyes of the listener. Not the slightest expression escaped notice. Everyone gradually realized that the person they served was not just a noble, but a monster wearing a gentle mask. Though the glorious victory lifted spirits, worry quietly crept into every step. Hans, the loyal servant, gently wiped the bloodstain on Roman's coat and softly spoke, a reminder that there were those watching and worrying for him beyond fame or glory. Hans could not hide his true feelings. He expressed joy at seeing Roman recognized, but honestly admitted that the price of such prominence, the master's direct involvement in bloody battles, was what made him uneasy. Hans's eyes shone with sincere fear. He confessed that his worry for Roman's safety had now exceeded his limit. In that silent moment, he wished for one simple thing: "Please be careful, my lord." Roman looked at Hans, who had followed him not just as a servant but as a close companion. With a calm yet weighty voice, he repeated what he had said before, a steadfast affirmation. "Hans, I've told you before, haven't I?" Without embellishment, Roman said one simple but powerful thing: "You are mine." Those words not only expressed the master's authority, but also an emotional acknowledgement of a loyal and irreplaceable bond. Memories gradually surfaced in Roman's mind. In his previous life as Baek Younghyuk, he had stepped over countless corpses to reach the pinnacle, becoming the fearsome heavenly demon. But on that blood-stained path, he always upheld a single ideal: to protect his own. Roman understood better than anyone else. A loyal subordinate was worth more than hundreds, even thousands of enemies. And with that belief, he looked at Hans, who was still stunned, calling his name in the gentle moonlight filtering through the night window. With a determined smile, Roman affirmed the truth he would live and die to protect. "I will do everything possible so that my people never face danger." In those words was the essence of a leader, a man who not only knew how to fight but also how to safeguard. Amidst the noble circles buzzing over the Barco family's affair, the Melek clan swiftly organized a tea party gathering, attracting the attention of women from the upper class. The scent of white flowers and the murmur of conversations filled the space with an atmosphere both elegant and politically charged. The party took place in a meticulously tended royal garden, where the ladies gathered, sipping tea while observing one another. Every conversation was a subtle probe into status and alliance trends following the Barco incident. Helena Melek, wife of the Melek patriarch, quickly took control. With a discreet expression behind a paper fan, she watched those who had supported Barco gradually reveal themselves, believing this was the moment they sought a political escape. Inwardly, Helena could not hide her satisfaction. She knew well, Barco's dominant position had ended, and Dimitri was the family inheriting power in the northeast region. The feeling of choosing the right side made her even more confident. When she saw the important guest enter, Helena immediately changed her expression, offering a warm, welcoming smile. It was none other than the woman she had been awaiting throughout the party. The newcomer was Rihanna Dimitri, lady of the Dimitri house. With a calm demeanor and a gentle yet powerful smile, she not only attracted gazes but also quieted the whispers in the garden party. Everyone hurried forward to show goodwill and a desire to connect. Helena did not miss the chance to approach, striving to win favor with fine wine and flattering words. Rihanna maintained a polite smile without losing initiative. She conversed skillfully, keeping just enough distance while gracefully accepting goodwill from other ladies with elegance and tact. With her established reputation and diplomatic skill, Rihanna was not merely the wife of a baron. She was the soul of a noblewomen's network and had early on created a loyal community supporting the Dimitri house. Unlike Romero Dimitri, who focused on military strategy, Rihanna possessed sharp political intellect. Thanks to her, Dimitri escaped Barco's influence. Without her prior preparation, the Dimitri house might have been overthrown in that power game. Rehana Dmitri, confident and dignified, stood amid the blooming garden and began the meeting with a warm greeting. She emphasized that the gathering's purpose was not mere formality, but to give those living in the same land a chance to understand and bond more closely. Before the attentive ladies, Rehana acknowledged that everyone had previously pursued their own goals, which was inherently the nature of noble society. However, these words caused some in the crowd to feel uneasy. Continuing with a subtly suggestive tone, Rehana affirmed that the current context had changed. She walked slowly among the crowd, delivering a clear message that now was the time to stand together, seeking strength from unity rather than competing against each other. However, Rehana's words were not as simple as they appeared. Beneath the softness and diplomacy lay a deeper meaning, expressed through her calm yet sharp gaze. That sharpness gradually became evident as she skillfully directed her words toward the ladies who had once sided with Barco. By evoking an unspoken past, she made them feel both embarrassed and pressured in an atmosphere that seemed to hold only tea, cakes, and polite greetings. Yet within that warning, Rehana also subtly extended an olive branch. She showed goodwill to accept those who had once strayed if they truly wished to change course and unite with Dmitri. The party atmosphere became lively again, but no one forgot what had just been said. On the table, tea and cakes were still fully served, but behind the small conversations were political calculations quietly unfolding. Amidst that scene, a noblewoman suddenly spoke, addressing Rehana and bringing up a seemingly simple topic. She asked for her opinion about her daughter Veronica. The question carried the implication of a potential matchmaking proposal. Without hesitation, the woman continued with a bold assertion. She believed Veronica would be a perfect match for Roman. The surprised reaction of the red-haired girl sitting beside her showed that this proposal was more than mere politeness. With a subtly suggestive yet gentle tone, the noblewoman affirmed that Roman was now 25 years old, a suitable age to consider marriage. That statement sounded like a bell signaling the start of covert marriage negotiations within the nobility. In the elegant atmosphere of the tea party, a lady smiled calmly and began a speech, declaring that her intention to marry off her daughter to Roman Dmitri did not stem from favoritism, but from the belief that they truly made a compatible pair. The words caused a brief silence, especially for Rehana Dmitri, who only smiled lightly, maintaining decorum but inwardly stirred. However, the reaction from other ladies was far from gentle. With a knowing smile, they recalled Veronica's past, reminding that she had once been betrothed to another family. The sarcastic remark, "Helena, don't be so greedy," was not just a joke. It was a covert jab at Helena's ambition, making her grit her teeth in anger and silently curse the cunning people around her. Maintaining the composure of a noble mother, Rehana gently raised her teacup and calmly responded with graceful yet meaningful words. Roman must be very careful when choosing a life partner. That choice not only affects the family but also shapes the future. The statement was an implicit declaration of the standards she set for anyone wishing to become her daughter-in-law. Under the soft light, Rehana mentioned a somewhat private detail. A daughter of an acquaintance had confessed to loving Roman at first sight. Her eyes briefly flashed coldly, as if conveying the message: Roman is not easily approachable, nor is he for shallow schemes. The conversation continued, steered towards subtle boasting. Another noblewoman quickly interjected, speaking of her talented niece who graduated top of her class, then shifted to promoting her own daughter's future beauty. The sweet words masked an intense silent rivalry, hoping to catch the favor of the Dmitri household. Amid the wave of flattery, a flashback appeared, revealing a reality everyone deliberately tried to forget. For 6 years, Roman Dmitri had been scorned within noble circles. With a poor reputation, he was labeled incompetent and unfit to bear the family's responsibilities. Roman was once seen as a failure, the useless heir of the Dmitri family. But now, he had made the nobility reconsider. With potential recognized as a level 4 knight, Roman began entering the ranks of individuals worth associating with, not only for his ability but also for his position. The future prospects now expanded for Roman. His abilities promised a brilliant life, and if he continued on this path, inheriting the Dmitri house, which was almost taken for granted, Roman would not only be an heir but also become an ideal model for any noble wife. In a short time, Roman's image had completely transformed. From a despised figure, he rose to become the ideal bachelor in the eyes of the upper class. Sitting amid admiring gazes, Rehana gently tapped her teacup on the table, smiling gracefully and expressing gratitude for the praise given to her son. However, deep in her heart, Rehana harbored a different sentiment. Gently placing her teacup on the table, she spoke in a low voice. Roman had endured too much pain. It was not just an exclamation but a protection, a silent declaration that anyone wishing to get close to her son must overcome the trials of both the past and a mother's heart. Amidst the flower-filled space, Rehana Dmitri gently expressed her view, affirming that she did not want her son's marriage to become a political tool. In her calm eyes, she hoped Roman could marry someone he truly loved, not be bound by power schemes. Rihanna's statement was like a cold splash dousing the ambitions of the surrounding noblewomen. With a light but firm smile, she openly denied any intention of arranging an early marriage for Roman, leaving the three women sitting nearby visibly embarrassed. That frankness was quickly interpreted by the ladies in their own way. If there was no arranged marriage, then whoever won Roman's heart first would be the victor. Their eyes sparkled as if stepping into a merciless competition. In the quiet night, the sound of wings echoed beneath the crescent moon. Amidst the stillness, Lawrence Castle remained lit, a sign that someone inside was still awake, troubled by heavy thoughts. In a study filled with books, Flora sat alone before a candle, her gaze full of determination. She understood clearly, to survive in this harsh world, she needed strength, not only physical strength but also willpower and intellect. Flora recalled the war between Lawrence and Barco, a battle that seemed impossible to win. She once said that if they could hold out until winter, there would be hope, but deep down, she knew that hope was fragile. In reality, Flora was well aware of the many variables working against them. Through vivid images of the battlefield's explosions, she remembered every fierce moment of fighting, where life was threatened with every breath and step. Yet amid that chaos, Roman Dmitri achieved the unexpected. With sharp strategy and courageous actions, he anticipated every move of the enemy and saved Lawrence from the brink of destruction, earning Flora's admiration. In her mind at that moment, Roman appeared radiant. He was someone she both admired and was moved by for his silent dedication. Facing that image, Flora's heart raced. An unprecedented emotion began to arise. As if suddenly realizing something, Flora blushed and fell silent. The surge of feelings in her chest made it impossible to deny. Roman had left a mark not only in the hearts of the people, but also in her own. Flora fiercely rejected the stirrings in her heart, shouting denial of her feelings for Roman Dmitri. In her mind, she immediately labeled him as an arrogant and selfish man, as if to convince herself she was still completely rational. She trembled, her face flushed while clenching her hands tightly, feeling both embarrassed and confused. Flora struggled to rationalize the emerging emotions with harsh criticisms of Roman, even though deep inside she knew that was not the whole truth. Amid half-hearted denials, her mind began to fracture with a bigger question. Why is Roman so strong? An inexplicable desire started to form. She wanted to understand the real person behind that cold facade. Flora closed her book, her heart tangled with thoughts of Roman. She stood up, deciding she needed some fresh air to escape the whirlpool of tormenting emotions. Under the windy night sky, Flora walked slowly along the corridor covered with fallen leaves. The wind howling through the stone pillars seemed to strip away the unnamed feelings within her. She gripped the railing tightly, trying to suppress her curiosity. To her, since the engagement was broken off, she and Roman had become strangers, no longer entitled nor reason to care for each other. Flora looked into the distance, telling herself that there were no longer any ties between her and Roman. The whispers in her heart firmly denied the possibility of reconciliation, even though her heart had not yet fully let go. A sudden call startled Flora, making her turn around. That familiar sound broke the moment she was trying to close off her silent emotions. Flora turned in surprise, meeting the sparkling eyes of a young girl who had just called her with friendliness and undisguised joy. The newcomer was Sylvia Lawrence, a relative from a branch of the Lawrence family. With a radiant smile and confident demeanor, she approached Flora, bringing surprise and a fresh atmosphere to the heavy scene filled with contemplation. Flora rushed into her father's room, her urgent call echoing as she pushed open the door of the Lawrence estate. Her chest was full of unanswered questions, her eyes filled with determination. Without waiting for a response, Flora strode to the center of the room, her voice ringing in the tense air. "I heard Lawrence is hosting a party at Dimitri's." The sudden news stunned her. With eyes full of dissatisfaction, Flora questioned her father why he had kept such an important matter secret. The rising disappointment in her words reflected her desire to be trusted. Viscount Lawrence turned around without speaking. A single glance revealed the hesitation in his eyes, as if carrying the weight of many unspoken thoughts. He spoke slowly, gently calling his daughter's name. After the recent war, he admitted he had realized many things he had previously ignored, things related to Flora's ability and character. He sincerely praised Flora for maintaining her composure during chaotic times. It was her clarity that helped them avoid despair when others could not make decisions. And thanks to Flora persuading Roman Dmitri to join the battle, House Lawrence was able to turn the tide. His words of gratitude carried deep appreciation, affirming her significant role in that victory. His voice grew serious and solemn. He admitted past mistakes in underestimating his daughter's true abilities. Now, he promised to support whatever path she chose, no longer imposing family responsibilities on her shoulders. Viscount Lawrence's eyes softened as he placed his hand on Flora's shoulder. He not only granted her freedom, but also encouraged her to pursue her own ideals, even if that path differed from family tradition. Moved by her father's sincere words, Flora was momentarily speechless. Then, with a shy yet determined expression, she said she actually just wanted to attend the party, a naive request that made him laugh. Flora angrily questioned her father about why he invited Sylvia to the party, clearly suspicious that there was no legitimate reason for her distant cousin to come to the capital at this time. Faced with his daughter's unexpected question, Viscount Lawrence evaded with a vague explanation, saying he simply wanted to take advantage of the party to expand connections. Flora immediately speculated, a serious suspicion forming in her mind. Was her father trying to restore political ties with the Dmitri family through Sylvia? The mounting worry gradually gave way to cautious acceptance. Despite doubting his motives, Flora tried to remain calm, tacitly understanding the plan her father was aiming for. She quickly changed her mind, deciding to accompany Sylvia to Dmitri herself as a guide, a way both to control the situation and to show goodwill in return for the favor Roman had once extended to them. Viscount Lawrence was embarrassed by her sudden decision, worried that Flora might be drawn back into a relationship with Roman, something he was trying to avoid to protect his daughter. However, Flora was resolute, her voice firm and eyes revealing determination. She gave her father no chance to intervene, decisively affirming she would escort Sylvia. Meanwhile, in the capital Kairos, a majestic scene unfolded with the Valhalla temple towering under the sunset, a symbol of divine power and strict order. Inside the temple, a high-ranking cleric held an urgent scroll, his eyes full of doubt as he read the reports sent from the Lawrence battlefield. The man seemed unable to believe his eyes. A young noble, only 25, from a distant frontier, could defeat a 4-star Aura Knight with a single slash. To him, that was completely illogical and beyond imagination. The mysterious Valhalla priest squinted through his mask, pondering amid flickering light. Though still skeptical, he could not ignore the rumors spreading throughout the land of Cairo that a young noble from the frontier had defeated a 4-star Aura Knight with just one strike. The priest's eyes blazed with fierce determination. His name was Willis, the one responsible for evaluating the knight ranks of Valhalla. With a giant greatsword strapped to his back, he declared excitedly, "I must witness firsthand the power of this so-called monster genius." The party night has arrived. The first footsteps of the guests echoed across the stone courtyard, signaling the most anticipated moment among the nobility was about to begin. From all around, the prestigious young ladies of noble families gathered early at Dmitri, bringing with them a glamorous appearance and curious eyes about this frontier land. A lively atmosphere spread everywhere as the young ladies happily chatted, their soft laughter sounding like a prelude to the lavish evening. Every piece of jewelry, every fold of their dresses was carefully tended to. Everyone wanted to stand out at the party that could change the fate of their families. Sylvia Lawrence, with her characteristic pale blue hair and elegant demeanor, had just arrived at Dmitri. Her eyes shone with surprise and curiosity at the scene before her. Although she had heard rumors about Dmitri's simplicity, Sylvia couldn't help but sigh when witnessing the reality. What she saw was even worse than she had imagined. The group of noble young ladies began to move deeper inside, led by Sylvia. Each wore a different expression, but all showed hints of suspicion and disappointment. By the roadside, black coal and crude workshops made one young lady exclaim with disdain. To them, a land full of dust and smoke was unworthy of such an important occasion. Whispers grew louder. The young ladies from the capital kept comparing Dmitri to the grandeur of their hometown, making the atmosphere increasingly tense. Sylvia slightly frowned, using a handkerchief to cover her mouth in a graceful yet sarcastic gesture. In her eyes, the leader of Dmitri clearly lacked aesthetic sense and artistic spirit. Sylvia was the daughter of Viscount Lawrence's younger brother, a man who had left home to make a career in the capital as a merchant. The difference in status and environment created an invisible gap between her and those who remained in Lawrence. Flora, familiar with the modesty of the borderlands, silently thought that compared to the capital's splendor, both Dmitri and Lawrence were no different from remote countryside. Nevertheless, she maintained a polite smile, hiding her true feelings. Sylvia's first glance at the group of miners ahead was one of astonishment mixed with curiosity. She was unaccustomed to seeing rough men casually walking through town like that. The miners, wearing sleeveless shirts and helmets, chatted animatedly as they finished work. Their strong presence and loud laughter made the atmosphere lively, but sharply contrasted with the glamour the young ladies expected. As the miners approached, their boisterousness became more apparent. While they paid no attention to the nobles, their noise began to make some young ladies uncomfortable. Some young ladies could not hide their disgust. They whispered that their splendid dresses could get dirty at any moment and expressed frustration at the presence of these uncouth people in the center of Dmitri. Whispers spread quickly among the nobles. To them, Dmitri was not only a poor town, but also a symbol of lack of refinement and low culture, something that made them sneer mockingly. Amid laughter and scorn, Flora quietly walked on. Without laughing or agreeing, her cold eyes looked ahead, meeting the image of a miner carrying a pickaxe on his shoulder. The miner glanced sideways at the passing noble girl. His eyes were calm, neither resentful nor respectful. It was the look of an experienced man, rough but full of courage. The moment their eyes met, Flora flinched slightly. She did not expect that in this despised land there would be eyes deep and sharp enough to make her heart skip a beat for a moment. As her gaze passed over a familiar figure, the blonde girl stopped abruptly, a sudden question ringing in her heart with astonishment. Wait a minute! That thought made her turn back, her steps forgetting all about the ceremonial young lady. Before her stood none other than the young man, both cold and steadfast among the miners, Roman Dmitri. That name suddenly thundered in her mind like a lightning strike, accompanied by an unbelievable astonishment. Before she could compose herself, Roman immediately turned and dashed away, striding powerfully like a warrior in everyday life. No one among the miners could stop the extraordinary aura radiating from that decisive action. As Roman left, Hans, the loyal steward, hurried over in panic. His heavy breathing and the call of "Sir" echoed in the air, a natural reaction from someone always worried about his master. Hans and the attendants quickly wiped the dust off Roman's body. He knew he couldn't forbid his master from going down to the mine, but still hoped the young man could maintain at least a minimal noble dignity in the eyes of outsiders. Just as Hans wiped a patch on Roman's cheek, he frowned and grimaced, holding up a handkerchief blackened with dirt as evidence of his distress. But Roman, with a calm gaze, gently interrupted. "That's enough, Hans." Yet Hans could not hide his unease. He muttered that seeing Roman return every day covered in dust tormented him deeply. This sincere feeling inadvertently reached the ears of those standing nearby. Two noble young ladies who heard the name Roman Dmitri immediately turned around, extremely surprised. Their faces revealed curiosity and excitement they could not hide upon encountering the living legend. For a moment the group of young ladies seemed hypnotized. Their eyes sparkled as they admired the young man's solemn demeanor, muscular build, and cold gaze. Just one name, Roman Dmitri, was enough to make their hearts flutter. Among them, Sylvia Lawrence was the first to admit Roman looked even more handsome than she had imagined. Her red eyes gleamed with a mischievous spark, her mind beginning to form thoughts that went beyond mere curiosity. Sylvia lightly licked her lips, an unconscious gesture revealing the secret emotions rising within her. Her gaze sparkled as if she had just discovered an unexpectedly delightful treasure. Deep down, Sylvia could not believe that a nobleman as prestigious as Roman Dmitri would accept hard labor in the mine. Normally, no noble family would send their son to such a harsh place. She concluded firmly, this must be a special form of training for the heir, a practical preparation worthy of the future leadership position Roman was destined for. Thinking of this made Sylvia's heart rejoice. She imagined the impressive score Roman had just earned in her mind, a perfect point that further solidified his position as heir. Unable to hide her excitement, Sylvia happily suggested that the group of young ladies go greet Roman together. She believed a greeting before the party would be both polite and an opportunity to score points. Roman Dmitri, still in his work clothes, politely tipped his hat as the young ladies approached. His calm demeanor and indifferent gaze made the scene even more contrasting with his rugged appearance. The young ladies eagerly surrounded Roman. One spoke on behalf of the group, politely asking if the person they saw was truly the famous Lord Roman Dmitri. Sylvia stepped forward, gently introducing herself as a lady of House Lawrence. With sparkling eyes and sincere tone, she thanked Roman from the bottom of her heart for saving her family. Sylvia's face brightened. She smiled warmly like morning sunshine, unabashedly praising Roman as handsome, just as the rumors had spread throughout the nobility. To the surprise of Sylvia and the young ladies, Roman responded briefly with a short phrase. "Yes, sure." That simple answer, contrasting with the enthusiasm spreading around, left everyone momentarily stunned and confused. Roman Dmitri turned his back and left after politely greeting the young ladies, leaving Sylvia's astonished gaze behind. The blue-haired girl only managed to stammer, hello," as the door in front of her seemed to slam shut with the young man's indifferent attitude. From afar, Flora witnessed the entire scene and chuckled softly. She was not surprised by Roman's cold behavior. On the contrary, it seemed typical. Though she said nothing, Flora was probably the one who understood best the consistency in his character. Hans quickly followed Roman, sighing and lightly reproaching. "Sir Roman, those young ladies will also attend the party. Why can't you be a bit gentler?" But Roman, without turning back, replied indifferently, "If they were worthy, I would have." Roman continued walking, his voice deepening. He emphasized that those ladies had once mocked Dimitri's mining work. Then Hans, always devoted by his side, worriedly asked, "How much longer do you intend to stay down in the mine?" A question full of concern and worry about Roman's sacrifice. Roman stopped, his gaze serious. He affirmed, "Forging iron is the foundation of Dimitri, and the mine is the continuation of that foundation." Those words rang like a philosophy, reflecting the true heir's steadfastness. In the gloomy setting of the mine, the image of workers sweating amid the echoing hammer strikes was recreated. Roman imagined their efforts, blood, sweat, and toil, all to extract materials for Dimitri, where metal was forged into weapons. Against the backdrop of glowing red fire, an old blacksmith swung his hammer with great force. Sparks flew like the light of Dimitri's spirit, a resilient spirit forged from effort and loyalty. That was the core essence of the family. Roman continued sharing his thoughts with Hans. He did not want to merely live beside laborers without truly understanding them. To empathize and coexist, Roman chose to endure hardship like them, to feel it with his own body and spirit. As Roman walked away with a determined posture, Hans silently watched from behind. In the early morning light, he could only softly call out, "Sir Roman," as a way to suppress the overwhelming emotion rising within him. Then, unable to hold back any longer, Hans teared up. He hugged the helmet and wondered, when did he become such a mature man? In his eyes, Roman was no longer the weak young master he once was, but a true man, worthy of the Dimitri family. Under the clear sky of Dimitri, Hans, the loyal steward, solemnly vowed to wash all of Roman's clothes without leaving a single speck of dust, as a silent expression of loyalty and responsibility after witnessing his master's remarkable growth. At the training ground within Dimitri City, counting echoed through the air. 1, 2, breaking the morning silence, signaling the start of a rigorous practice session. The tough atmosphere showed this place was led by someone with a clear vision. Under strict supervision, rows of soldiers focused on performing synchronized movements at the command, "Do it again," demonstrating a highly disciplined training spirit. This regularity and concentration reflected the army's seriousness under Roman's leadership. The memory of the battle with Barco had not faded, but instead of causing fatigue, it became a motivation that forged soldiers' loyalty to Roman Dimitri. Every sword swing was now not just training, but an expression of gratitude and respect. After the war, Roman did not let his soldiers stagnate. He taught new training techniques, foundational exercises from the demon sect, including breathing methods and swordsmanship embodying courage. It was a risky decision, but carefully calculated. These new techniques unlocked the true potential of the Aura Knights, helping them reveal power that was previously limited. For Roman, the value of this knowledge was more precious than any material treasure, a hidden but enduring legacy. Although the soldiers had made remarkable progress, Roman was still not satisfied. He realized that to gain the upper hand on every battlefield, reading the opponent from head to toe was crucial. That was the next step to elevate the collective combat ability. With sharp eyes and firm will, Roman concluded he needed an independent intelligence system. Only then could he proactively anticipate every variable, a weapon even more powerful than swords or magic. However, Roman clearly understood the harsh reality. To build an effective information network, he needed a large amount of finances and manpower. Currently, his resources were still too limited for that ambition. Acknowledging the current shortage, Roman did not retreat. He decided to summon Chris, his most trusted confidant, as a preparatory step for the next plan. Though conditions were not yet ideal, Roman was ready to take action. Chris quickly approached when called, respectfully responding to Roman. The young lord asked directly, how was the current training progressing? With bright eyes and a confident voice, Chris reported that everyone was training diligently and progressing rapidly. He believed that soon, the results would become evident. Roman nodded, calling Chris's name once more. His voice was calm but clear, signaling that it was time for Chris to learn a new sword technique, one far beyond anything before. Chris's heart pounded strongly. He froze for a moment, overwhelmed with amazement. A new technique? For him, it was an opportunity not to be missed to rise to a new level. Roman looked directly at Chris, seriously reminding him that Chris's starting point was different from the rest, a person who had once lived isolated within his own worldview. In the past, Chris had been confined by old-fashioned thinking. Accepting new knowledge was a significant challenge for him, as if he had to break down an entire world he once believed to be true. But now, in front of Roman, Chris had changed. Roman believed that Chris was finally ready to embrace something completely new, a new chapter in his journey of self-cultivation. With a serious and determined gaze, Roman revealed that the sword technique he was about to teach was no ordinary matter. It was a technique that had once created legends. Its name was Flashing Lightning Technique, a sword style associated with the reputation of a swordsman who once dominated the Murim world with speed and thunderous power. That person was one of the 10 greatest masters in the world. Now, his swordsmanship essence would be passed down, and Roman believed Chris was worthy to inherit that legacy. In the magnificent hall of the Dmitri estate, a grand party is underway amidst splendid chandeliers and a lively atmosphere. The whispers of noble young ladies echo throughout the room, revolving around a single topic: the man who will be the center of attention tonight. The grand hall doors slowly open, revealing a brilliant light from outside. A servant solemnly announces the arrival of the most awaited guest. Lord Roman Dmitri has arrived. In the glorious space, the gazes of the young ladies simultaneously turn toward the entrance. Roman's appearance seems to freeze time, their eyes shining with curiosity and anticipation. Roman Dmitri steps into the radiant light, carrying a calm and dignified aura. Each step he takes seems to dominate the space, silencing all whispers. Roman's charismatic presence causes the noble young ladies to blush. Their hearts beat rapidly, captivated by the man who was once underestimated but now shines brighter than ever. As the crowd of young ladies begins to approach, one of them gently reproaches Roman, asking why he left without saying a word during the day. They had hoped to talk with him before the party. Roman smiles warmly, explaining that he had just finished work at the mine and did not want to appear dirty. He wanted to show respect by appearing in his neatest appearance. Roman's simple yet sincere explanation moves the young ladies. They admire his humility and refinement, a man who is not only strong but also proud. A young lady with striking blue hair steps forward, her eyes sparkling with admiration. She cannot hide her impression of Roman, a noble heir who is not afraid to engage in labor work. With a radiant face, the girl expresses her desire to change herself. Meeting someone like Roman has made her believe that she too can become a new person, stronger, worthy, and more valuable. Roman Dmitri gently responds to the blue-haired lady's compliment with a bow and a polite smile. Although fully aware that he is the center of attention, he remains humble and measured, further stirring the hearts of the ladies. The atmosphere in the hall becomes lively as Roman continues to converse with other young ladies. His natural way of speaking and skillful manners make everyone around him burst into delighted laughter. Another lady approaches closely, whispering something that makes Roman smile subtly. His eyes sparkle but maintain a certain distance, as if that charm is a mask hiding things untouchable. Laughter rings out joyfully amid the clinking of glasses echoing throughout the hall. The party seems like just a casual social gathering, but in Roman's heart, it is merely a role he must play to the end. Leaving behind the lights and laughter, Roman seeks the quiet balcony. His hands grip the cold railing tightly, as if holding onto the only support amid the fake crowd and the genuine emotions rising within. Under the silent moonlight, Roman stands alone quietly, sighing in the darkness. The lights behind still shine brightly, but here he can truly be himself. No flattery, no superficial admiration. In that solitary moment, a familiar voice sounds from behind. Roman frowns slightly upon hearing the sharp remark, "You truly are a talented actor." He does not need to turn around to know who has appeared. Standing before the yellow light from the doorway, Flora appears in an elegant blue dress. She does not need to ask anything. Her eyes are enough for Roman to understand that his pretense has long been seen through. Memories suddenly flood back. Lawrence is not a land of warlike nobility, but a prosperous city thanks to commerce. The cries of vendors and the exchange of goods are the foundation that has made this place as thriving as it is today. Roman gently nodded at Flora's explanation. The fact that the younger brother of Count Lawrence became a merchant in the capital was no longer surprising. In Roman's eyes, those commercial connections held more to explore than the glamorous appearance of this party. Flora was stunned, her eyes wide with shock as she heard Roman accurately mention the commercial origins of House Lawrence. A confused question echoed in her mind. How did he know that? Memories took her back to late nights at her desk, when she had just discovered the truth about the commercial foundation of the Lawrence family through secret documents. Having never shared this with anyone, Flora was even more puzzled. How could Roman Dmitri know so much? Regaining her composure, Flora pressed Roman with a firm look. "Then what does that have to do with you working in the mine?" She still couldn't connect the two chaotic pieces in her mind. Roman did not hesitate, answering decisively. "Iron mining is the foundation of Dmitri." With a steady gaze, he began to reveal another layer of his portrait, an heir who understands the roots of his family. The image of miners appeared vividly in Roman's words. He emphasized that without the hardworking laborers digging iron in dust and hardship every day, Dmitri could not have developed as it is today. Roman looked up at the sky, affirming with firm belief that personally working alongside the miners and understanding their work would be a precious asset, helping him mature and lead rightly in the future. He concluded with quiet pride, "That is my responsibility as one who carries the Dmitri bloodline." The words gently moved Flora's heart with their sincerity and rare ideals found in a noble heir. Under the moonlight, Roman turned away after realizing he had been away from the party too long. He excused himself from the balcony, leaving Flora standing alone amid the darkness and tangled thoughts. Flora silently watched his retreating figure, the light from the window casting on her face, causing her stunned expression to gradually give way to an indescribable feeling, genuine admiration. A slight smile appeared at the corner of Flora's lips. In the dim light, she said nothing, but that expression said it all. She had just seen a Roman Dmitri very different from the old rumors, and perhaps she began to trust him. Amid the splendid space of the party, Roman Dmitri appeared completely integrated, skillfully responding to compliments from noble young ladies. He gently bowed with a polite smile, causing one girl's cheeks to flush with emotion. Roman walked among the noble crowd, attracting glances and joyful laughter from those around. He became the center of the ball with natural charm and a sense of humor. In the radiant light, one of the young ladies spoke intimately with Roman. He leaned in to listen, his eyes shining with calmness and subtlety that captivated his companion. Glasses of wine were raised amid laughter and chatter, like a silent ritual affirming that Roman had been accepted as a member of the upper class. Under the moonlight on the balcony, Roman's hand rested lightly on the railing, evoking a contemplative mood. The quiet atmosphere seemed completely separated from the castle's bustle. Roman stood alone in the night, gazing at the distant sky. Two sighs followed in succession, as if a way to release himself from the social mask he had just worn. A voice sounded from behind, delivering a sharp remark. "You really are a good actor." Roman did not turn around, but his eyes clearly showed alertness and fatigue. When he turned back, Roman recognized Flora, who had just appeared. She stood silently in the light reflected from the doorway, her appearance graceful but her gaze full of suspicion. The narration recounted the prosperous origins of House Lawrence, not through war or force, but thanks to trading and exchanging goods. That was what made this land develop as it is today. Flora, upon hearing Roman mention the uncle who was once a merchant in the capital, could not hide her astonishment. She silently exclaimed a shocked question. How does he know that? While preparations at the mine continued as usual, rumors spread among the miners. They showed indifference, believing Roman's appearance was just a clumsy act by the nobility, appearing for show and then retreating immediately. A burly miner, Morkan, considered a veteran in the trade, expressed clear dissatisfaction. He bluntly criticized Lord Dmitri, claiming that the lord was no longer as wise as before. Morkan continued to voice his frustration. According to him, if they truly wanted to train the heir, teaching the sons should start early. Instead, attention always leaned toward the blacksmiths, making miners like them feel abandoned. He emphasized that all three Dmitri sons were trained from childhood in the forge. They mastered blacksmithing knowledge while mining, the true financial pillar, was sidelined. Morkan's voice echoed across the mineyard as he shouted, "But they never learned a single thing about mining." That condemnation stunned the group of miners, as if forced to face a truth they had long hidden inside. Not stopping there, Morkan claimed this was proof of discrimination from the lord. Although some younger miners tried to calm him, Morkan snapped. His accumulated resentment had exceeded tolerance. He continued to affirm the crucial role of mining in Dmitri's prosperity. Yet all glory belonged to the blacksmiths, those standing in the light, while miners were forgotten in the shadows. In anger, Morkan shouted fiercely, saying that if Roman truly came only because he was forced, then they, the miners, would not yield. They would show him the harshness and hardship of underground work. Footsteps sounded amid the settling dust. The sudden appearance silenced the crowd. All eyes immediately turned forward with suspicion and caution. The manager announced to the entire mining team, from today, Roman Dmitri would work alongside them as a genuine miner. The statement stunned the group, marking the start of a challenging and confrontational phase. A cold morning began in the Dmitri Mountains as miners sluggishly started their workday. Long yawns and slow head scratches reflected the monotonous repetition of daily life. The morning atmosphere grew livelier with giggles. Under the dim sunlight, a group of young miners chatted and teased each other, seemingly unaware of the important presence that would change the entire rhythm of work today. Separated from the noisy crowd, Roman Dmitri quietly observed. His eyes shone with calmness and determination, a presence that attracted attention without any display, though he cared little for it. During the shift briefing, the safety officer emphasized the unbreakable rule at the iron mine. Safety comes first. Those seemingly simple words encapsulated the harsh reality here, where a small mistake could cost a life. As the signal ended, the atmosphere quickly shifted to a hurried pace. Workers hurriedly prepared tools, carried crates, and skillfully plunged into work. The labor cycle at Dmitri Iron Mine officially began. Completely ignored by the miners, Roman maintained an impassive expression. He paid no mind to skeptical or scornful looks. The only thing he cared about was achieving his own goal, starting with understanding this underground world. Under the bright light illuminating the Dmitri emblem, the symbol of a city living off mineral extraction, Roman set a mission for himself. He must thoroughly understand this place, which has sustained his family for generations. It was not merely a job. Roman wanted to delve deeper, the true power possessed by the Dmitri people and his ability to intervene in this vast machine. Every action he took was a carefully prepared step for the near future. Standing before the towering snow-covered mountain, a symbolic image of challenge and opportunity, Roman silently promised himself everything he was doing today was aimed at serving the grand plan gradually taking shape in his mind. Deep inside the dark earth, the sound of pickaxes striking rocks echoed relentlessly. Amid the continuous clang of metal clashing, the mine manager shouted loudly, urging the miners to speed up their progress. They still had a long way to go to meet the daily extraction target. Amid the bustling work, a pair of strong, skillful hands emptied a heavy sack of black coal ore into a cart. Without a single complaint, only the dry clack echoed in the suffocating atmosphere of the mine. The pale yellow light from an oil lamp shone on the dirt-streaked face of a young worker. In a moment of observation, he realized that the working system here operated very methodically. Each stage was clearly assigned, with no unnecessary steps. The young worker thought as he looked around. Everyone in the tunnel had a distinct role. Clear assignments ensured progress and safety, creating an amazingly smooth-running machine deep underground. An older miner began explaining to the newcomer why Dmitri's steel products were famous everywhere. He wiped his sweat and smiled proudly, as if that story had been passed down from generation to generation. According to the old man's story, the secret was not only in the blacksmith's craftsmanship, but also in the quality of the ore. The raw iron here had superior purity and durability, something any expert would acknowledge. An illustrated map showing iron distribution across the continent revealed that other territories had to import materials at high costs, leading to significant losses. Meanwhile, Dmitri had a superior advantage. The entire process from mining to forging was closed within the same region. The old miner laughed smugly, pointing to the sky as if emphasizing an obvious truth. It was the self-sufficiency in the production chain that was the key factor allowing Dmitri to earn enormous profits unmatched by anyone else. The young man wearing a yellow hat slowly looked up at his interlocutor, his eyes flashing with understanding. The clear explanations made him realize why this territory was unbelievably wealthy. Everything was gathered, processed, and consumed right within their land. Against the blue sky, the image of Dmitri's mansion appeared magnificent. An inner voice echoed. Decades had passed, and the people here lived by a self-sufficient model. And now, Roman began to suspect that Dmitri's real wealth might be far greater than what people had always thought. In a brief pause, a voice from behind made Roman stop. The miner coldly reminded him, this was not a place for chatting. This place was only for the hardworking. The miner's tone grew harsher. He not only blamed Roman for being distracted, but also bluntly criticized that he could hinder everyone's work progress. Finally, a tall man, introduced as veteran miner Morkan, ordered Roman to leave the mining area. His cold gaze and imposing stance showed he was not accustomed to tolerating the presence of those who did not contribute. In the tense atmosphere, two pairs of eyes met silently. Roman remained calm, while Morkan watched him with suspicion mixed with judgment, as if weighing the qualities of the newcomer. Not letting the situation escalate, Roman bowed his head in apology. In a calm tone, he promised to focus on his work, dispelling the concerns of the experienced miner. Then, without a word of complaint, he quietly continued working, lifting the heavy ore sack onto his shoulder. That decisive action showed he was not intimidated, but rather proving his determination. The other workers watched Roman with unreadable eyes. They said nothing, but in the glance of someone nearby, there seemed to be recognition, a hint of curiosity or cautious respect. Time passed quietly. A week later, the scene shifted to a simple meal of bread and hot soup, the modest daily fare of the miners, but the result of genuine days of labor. Roman sat alone during the lunch break, quietly chewing a piece of bread. A week had passed since he started working with them, but aside from a few brief answers, no one spoke to him further. He began to wonder, were they showing indifference because they saw him as an outsider? Roman's eyes flickered with some doubt, while his mind analyzed every gesture of those around him to find an explanation for this silence. During the break, while Roman was eating his simple bread and soup, an unexpected step approached, catching his attention. The quiet atmosphere of lunch was broken by the shadow of a miner stopping in front of him. Without a word, the miner sat down opposite Roman. After a moment of hesitation, he spoke, breaking the silence that had lasted all week. "May I ask you something?" Under the clear sky, the miner looked directly at Roman with seriousness. "I have been watching you work all week, sir, and I am truly curious. With sincere and somewhat confused eyes, he asked a question that had long been building inside him. Why did you choose to work here? That thought was not just personal curiosity. In the miner's heart, the question carried a heavy comparison. Even Rodwell, the second son, considered the obvious heir of the Dmitri family, had never set foot in this iron mine. Yet Roman, the eldest of the family, was quietly present here, without declaration or demand, silently blending into the ranks of workers, seeking to understand the role of inheritance through his own hands and sweat. When Roman appeared at the mine, everyone assumed he would disdain manual labor. The miner himself was certain Roman would look down on them, people smeared with mud, making a living with pickaxes and chunks of coal. For that reason, he deliberately arranged for Roman to work near him, wanting to see firsthand how the young master would behave. But contrary to all expectations, Roman was more diligent and serious than anyone else. No, not just diligent. Roman worked harder than most of the other laborers. Despite sweat soaking his shirt and heavy breathing, he never faltered and consistently met his daily quota. A sudden rumor began spreading among the miners. According to someone working in the castle, Roman's arrival here was not ordered by the Dmitri family. If true, it meant Roman had voluntarily chosen to come down to the mine. Just as he placed his bread down on the ground, Roman suddenly sensed footsteps approaching from ahead. He looked up and saw a figure bending down to the ground, a sign that someone had actively sought him out during the quiet lunch break. The miner with dark blue hair sat down opposite him without hesitation. Though somewhat cautious, he took the initiative to ask, "May I ask you something?" The atmosphere between them suddenly became serious. Looking up at the sky, the miner expressed his feelings. For a whole week, he had observed Roman working, and now curiosity would no longer let him remain silent. He wanted to know, why would a lord choose to labor among dusty stone layers? With sincere eyes and undeniable concern, the miner asked directly, "Why did you decide to work here?" That question was not only personal curiosity, but also represented the silent doubt of the entire mine. An image suddenly appeared in his mind. The promising heir of the Dmitri family, Rodwell, had never set foot in the mine. He lived apart from the reality of the working people. Meanwhile, Roman, the eldest brother, was here. Roman not only appeared but fully integrated. In work clothes, he was no different from a genuine worker, entering the mine every day, quietly observing and learning. This made many people doubt his true motives. With caution, the miner deliberately arranged for Roman to work near him. Initially, it was to monitor and verify the thought that Roman was merely playing the role of a noble clothes to the people, but the results surprised him. Roman did not work half-heartedly. He labored tirelessly, swinging his pickaxe and shoveling rocks with all his strength like the other workers, even surpassing them in intensity and perseverance. He met the daily quota. No one could complain about anything. Rumors spread quickly in the mine. Some heard from servants in the castle that Roman was not forced by his father. This work was entirely his own voluntary choice, a fact that surprised everyone. The miner's expression momentarily froze. He asked again with an unmistakable tone of astonishment, "You mean he voluntarily works here?" The question echoed in the damp darkness, marking the beginning of a change in how people viewed the young man named Dmitri. Roman Dmitri recognized that although the Dmitri domain was currently wealthy thanks to mining, all that wealth was his father's achievement. Therefore, he could not simply rely on inheritance to claim himself as the rightful heir. He came to the mine not to inherit, but to find his own path to truly contribute to this land. He wanted to genuinely accomplish something valuable so that he could proudly call Dmitri his own. That desire did not stem from status, but from a legitimate urge to prove his capability. That determination made those facing him only laugh in surprise and delight. Morkan burst out laughing after understanding why Roman came to the mine. To him, the idea of a nobleman trying to create a legitimate reason to claim his father's property sounded strange and somewhat foolish. Yet that foolishness surprised him and made him feel closer to Roman than ever before. Morkan admitted that at first he thought Roman came to the mine to compete for inheritance with his brother. But now he understood that Roman was not seeking power or fame, but a solid foundation to rise from zero. That was why he chose the mine instead of the forge, which was often seen as the family's symbol. Realizing this, Morkan emotionally clasped his hands tightly. To him, Roman's choice to start at the mine not only showed humility, but also demonstrated that the young man truly understood the value of mining, a profession long underestimated. Overwhelmed with emotion, Morkan decided to open up completely. With bright eyes and a sincere smile, Morkan declared that if there was anything Roman wanted to know about the mine, he was ready to share everything without holding back. His loyalty and trust in Roman were fully affirmed in that moment. Roman took advantage of that opportunity opportunity, continuously asking a series of detailed questions. Morkan, with rare enthusiasm, answered all inquiries clearly and sincerely. Through that conversation, Roman gained a lot of valuable information, things he could never have known just by observing from afar. Roman gradually realized that Dimitri's iron mine was not only the largest in the kingdom, but possibly the largest on the entire continent. This land was not only operating well, but also possessed nearly limitless development potential if exploited properly, especially the mountainous region at the edge of the map where no one had yet set foot. Morkan, with practical knowledge, admitted that Dimitri was fully capable of increasing extraction output. But the reason they had not done so was not due to technology or resources, but because of the extremely dangerous working conditions, forcing extraction speed to slow down to ensure safety. The harsh environment prevented miners from working quickly. This directly resulted in limited output. Roman listened carefully, understanding that if he wanted to maximize Dimitri's potential, he had to improve working conditions before thinking about production volume. Although receiving significant investment from the Lord to improve working conditions, Morkan could not deny the fact that mining inherently always harbors dangers. That was an unchangeable characteristic of the industry, no matter how much support it received. Morkan further explained the hidden dangers in the northeastern mountain area, where earthquakes frequently occurred. Before he could finish speaking about the inevitability of natural disasters, the ground suddenly shook, as if proving his own words. Roman's eyes widened in warning, clearly feeling the tremors spreading underground. The sudden earthquake immediately put him on high alert. A loud rumble echoed fiercely. The entire mining area shook violently, interrupting the miners' lunch. Those around Roman and Morkan hurriedly stood up, sensing the imminent danger of a cave-in. Morkan immediately jumped up and rushed toward the noise while shouting to ask what was happening. Roman followed closely behind him, his expression full of determination and readiness to respond to the emergency. A panicked miner reported that tunnel number 8 had collapsed, and a worker was buried under the rubble. The news struck like lightning at noon, causing Morkan to exclaim in horror and confusion. A crowd of miners gathered around the collapsed tunnel entrance, looking down into the bottomless black pit. The atmosphere was filled with anxiety, and the exclamation, "Crap," clearly expressed the confusion and despair spreading among them. One miner warned about the risk of further collapse, saying it was impossible to act immediately. But Roman interrupted, his eyes resolute as he declared, "I will go," a decision made without hesitation that stunned everyone. Another miner tried to stop him in horror, emphasizing Roman's status as the eldest son of the Dimitri family. Even knowing Roman was an Aura Knight, he could not accept a noble personally rushing into danger without a clear assessment of the situation. Roman maintained his determined gaze, unmoved by the advice. In a calm but firm voice he replied, "By then, it will be too late." Just that one sentence was enough to silence Morkan before the spirit of sacrifice shown by the Dimitri heir. Morkan stood speechless, his eyes stunned as he heard Roman declare he would descend into the collapsing mine himself. The statement, "I am of House Dimitri," was like a sharp blade piercing his mind, a reminder that before him stood the rightful heir, not only in name but acting for that honor. With a decisive voice, Roman affirmed the responsibility tied to the Dimitri name. Ignoring all objections, he strode toward the tunnel entrance, ordering medical preparations for the injured. His resolute stance amid the dust and mist silenced those around him, leaving only a quietly burning admiration. In an instant, Roman leapt high, leaving a dazzling white streak behind. That powerful jump was not just entering a dark tunnel, but a plunge into the faith of a leader daring to risk himself for his subordinates. Inside the collapsing dark mine, Roman used exceptional speed to dash through layers of crumbling rubble. Each dash carried a determination to save others over his own life. The mana light from his body flared like a declaration. This was no noble safe in a castle, but a warrior living among commoners. Amid the chaotic dust and stones, a hand suddenly reached out, gripping tightly onto the edge of a rock. It was Roman's hand, a sign he had successfully reached the collapse zone. The entire mine held its breath in that life-or-death moment. The miners above gasped in astonishment, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Morkan was stunned speechless, his heart seeming to stop as he saw Roman truly return from the depths of the earth. Cheers erupted loudly as a miner rescued by Roman was carried out from the tunnel entrance on his shoulder. "Sir Roman saved the injured." The words quickly spread throughout the area, carrying a wave of admiration. Roman's command rang out amid the rain. "Bring the splints here immediately." Without waiting for anyone else, Roman bandaged the miner's wound himself. The strips of cloth were tightly wrapped around the broken leg, as firm as his own determination, careful, meticulous, and without hesitation. Morkan silently observed, feeling both astonished and grateful. Roman not only saved the man but also bandaged more skillfully than a medic. Treating wounds isn't easy, yet he did it so well, he thought to himself. Roman completed the first aid and ordered the injured to be taken for comprehensive treatment. His voice was not only decisive, but also compassionate as he declared he would personally cover the recovery costs. Those words made everyone bow in respect, not just for power, but for the heart of a true lord. As the injured miner was carried away with the support of his comrades, Roman Dmitri watched with calm but resolute eyes. His responsibility did not end with saving a life. That was only the beginning of a greater mission. Roman turned back, his voice rising amid the silent crowd. He knew the recent accident made everyone believe that disaster was an inevitable part of mining, but as a leader, he refused to accept that as a given. The miners stood silently, their eyes still stunned, soaked with fatigue and helplessness after the shock they had just endured. But amid those emotions, they began to listen seriously, because the one speaking was not a distant noble, but someone who had risked his life to save their comrade. Facing the rugged mountain scenery, Roman declared firmly, "No matter how difficult, there is always a way to change." He did not believe in fate deciding everything, but believed in human will shaping destiny. With determined eyes, Roman candidly pledged to address the root causes of the suffering borne by the people of Dmitri. Every word he spoke seemed to carve deeply into the listeners' hearts, making Morkan unable to look away, truly trusting a lord for the first time. Roman concluded with a firm promise. No matter the cost, he would complete this mission, not with flowery words, but with an iron belief that change was near, and he was the one leading that change.